Hello everyone, Dragoon here bringing you a Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile video. So I kind of hesitated on bringing this video out mainly because of the cost of this deck, and I don't want to encourage people on overspending their money on getting this deck. The cards have come down somewhat, some are still kind of pricey, so by no means am I encouraging people to like overspend on Yu-Gi-Oh whatsoever. The only reason why I built this deck is because I have majority of the stuff already, and I want them getting some pretty good deals on the rest of it. So the main thing is to spend wisely. So as you can see in front of you, there's a Kashtira deck. I've been playing this deck for a little bit. I'm a little late on uploading this due to some real life stuff. Thankfully, a lot of that is being taken care of. That being said, let's get into the profile and hopefully you guys enjoy it. Starting with the main deck, it's pretty basic. 3 Kashtira Rise Heart, 3 Kashtira Unicorn, 3 Kashtira Fenrir. These are pretty much like the bread and butter when it comes to like a lot of your combos or starting points. Fenrir can search for other Kashtira monsters. Unicorns can search for the spell cards, which include Kashtira Theosis and Kashtira Rebirth, I believe it's called. And Kashtira Rise Heart is an extender and a good way to get into either Re-Arise or not Re-Arise, a Rise Heart or any other rank 7 exceed. So I feel like these are like the only Kashtira monsters that you have to play a 3 of, but I've seen some people play Rise Heart at 2. You know, it's about comfort. Right now, I just really like having those to like get into my starting combos. Continuing with 2 Kashtira, 2 Scareclaw Kashtira, 1 Tearlaments Kashtira, and 1 Kashtira Ogre. While I do like Scareclaw being able to bring out himself, at the cost of 1 of your Kashtira cards from your hand, I may cut him down to 1. I'm not too sure yet. I just like making sure that I have a way to extend my board so I can go into more Exceed monsters or even a Link monster if necessary. Tearlaments Kashtira, I actually wound up liking a lot, especially when you have a Kashtira Birth on the field, then you automatically gain 3 targets from your opponent's deck to banish if they activate a spell card while you control a Kashtira monster. Ogre searches for your trap cards as well as snipes from the top 5 cards of the deck. That's actually something I forgot to mention too, but I'm pretty sure you have played against Kashtira or at least have seen it. Fenrir, when he attacks or if your opponent's monster activates an effect, you can banish a card on their side of the field face down, faced up. And Kashtira Unicorn, you can look at your opponent's extra deck and banish a card from their extra deck face down. So this is why Unicorn specifically is why people started playing doubles of certain extra deck monsters, so that way if they do lose the target, they have a second copy of it. I have to do the same thing just in case of mirror. And then the rest of the monsters are just hand traps. These are all subjective. You play to the numbers that you like. 3 Ash Blossom, because stopping starts is actually really strong. And with Kashtira, if you can stop their Kashtira Theosis, it kind of hurts them a little bit. 2 Lava Golems, because I literally don't normal summon, like, ever. And with Lava Golem, if you go second, you can put this on their board and then just do your normal stuff and get rid of it with your own Fenrir, or you can get rid of it with the Rise Heart, or whatever you feel like you need to. And then I do play 1 Effect Veiler. The 1 Effect Veiler is really just here to be a little disruptive. I did want to play a 3rd Lava Golem, but then I thought it might be too clunky. But the Effect Veiler has done nicely with taming certain things, and you know, not seeing it at all doesn't really hurt you. So it at 1 doesn't do anything negative for the deck. You just don't want to be in a situation where you open up Ash Blossom, Effect Veiler, and like Lava Golem and then have no way to play. So that's pretty much it. Next, the spell cards. 3 Pressure Planet Ratesoth, excuse me. This card lets you search for a Kashtira monster when you activate it, and then when your Shang'ira activates an effect, you can blow up a card in the field. For every attribute on the field, your Kashtira monsters gain 100 attack. So the searching is broken. The synergy it has with the Exceed monster to blow up stuff on the field and open slots so that way you can lock them later on is broken. So that's pretty much what it's there for. 3 Kashtira Theosis. This is another extension card. If you don't open up with another monster but you have this, you can still continue your turn as normal, especially if realistically, if you just open with everything. What this does is you can target a Kashtira monster you control, and special summon a Kashtira monster from your deck with a different attribute, to the field. So even if you open, let's say with Kashtira Unicorn, you search this card out, activate it, and then special summon Fenrir. Fenrir will grab you like Rise Heart, for example, and now your board is essentially set up. So this card is pretty cracked. And then the last of the Kashtira cards are 3 Kashtira Births. I know people play this at 2, some people play it at 1. I play it at 3 because of all the utility you get from it. It's a Monster Reborn, kind of. It lets you normal summon a level 7 monster without tributing, which is insane. And then if your opponent activates a spell card while this card's on the field and you control a Kashtira monster, you can banish 3 cards from your opponent's graveyard face down. So it's a Swiss Army knife. It really has a lot of utility, and I absolutely love this card. So I feel like 3 is a really, really fair number to be using it at. And then the non-Kashtira cards. 3 Book of Eclipse. This is so I have some kind of defense against Nibiru. Granted, I'll lose all the lock board if I have Shangri-La kind of like locking stuff down, but it saves my board from like being lost altogether, because Nibiru has to tribute the face up cards. So this is like what I use to protect myself from it, being that Nibiru is kind of a popular card right now. So the triple tactics card. So I play 2 triple tactics talents and 1 thrust. This will eventually be swapped when I get a second thrust. There's a lot of hand traps being played right now, and triple tactics thrust into triple tactics talents, or thrust into terraforming. Like there's just so much like utility with this card. It's pretty solid. So that card's being played. This will eventually be 2-1 like I mentioned, but I need to get a second copy of this. The last spell card I play is terraforming. Wraith Sight or Wraith Soth is really, really good, and being able to play 39 cards is even better. Trap cards are pretty linear. It's just 3 infinite impermanents, more hand traps, and then putting on the board, and being that you're already locking down columns, you're kind of able to use this card to a higher potential, because you can dictate where your opponent is playing spells and traps. Now, it's not to say that you should only play this deck to lock out your opponent's board, but that's one of the top strategies to do with it. A Rise Heart control is another way you can go about it, but the Shangri-La with infinite impermanence is kind of nuts. 1 Kashtira Big Bang, because it gives you an extra body on board when you banish it with a Kashtira effect. Kashtira Exceed has to be on field for you to get the full benefit though. And then 1 Kashtira Preparations. This lets you special summon Kashtira monsters from your hand and deck, I believe. Let me just double check because I don't really use this. You can special summon your Kashtira monsters that is banished from your hand. Okay, so banish from your hand, and if your opponent activates a trap card while this card's on the field, you can look at your opponent's hand and banish 1 of their cards face down. So with the exception of Labyrinth, you don't really see a lot of traps being played. So this card is still good. Like being able to bring monsters back and move stuff around is really, really strong. And with a Rise Heart on the field, anything that leaves the field gets banished. So, cards that should go to the graveyard get banished. So this will make sure that your cards will always be accessible. Going into the extra deck, starting with the Synchros, we have 1 Baron to Floor. Thank God for this reprint. Mine is original print, but for the people that don't have it yet, it's a pretty moderately priced card. I think it's around like $40 last time I checked. But I totally expect it to be the price going forward, barring some kind of like limitation or banning. So if you can spend the 40, pick it up. It's good in a multitude of decks, and I just think overall, like, having access to this card will help you a lot. Her in this deck, like, she comes out pretty easy with any Kashtira level 7 monster and Ash Blossom. So having a negate, a popper, and then being able to like just go into another monster in the graveyard that's level 9 or lower, it's pretty good. And then the other synchro monster is Sword Soul, Supreme, Sovereign, Chen Yang. I don't know how to pronounce that. For each banish card, this card gains 100 attack and defense. Monster your opponent's controls lose 100 attack and defense. If this card would be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish 1 card from your graveyard instead. If cards is banished except during the damage step, you can banish 1 card from each your opponent's field and graveyard. You can only use this effect of him once per turn. So having built-in protection while also manipulating your opponent's field and board in a deck that already managed is pretty strong. And for every card that is banished, it gets chunkier. So while I'm never going to probably summon him over Baron, having him as an alternate, like if Baron is gone, is really, really good. or maybe you don't need the negate and you just want to push face. And I don't see a situation where he's better than Baron really, but he's still a really good option to have, especially if Baron gets sniped. Going into Xyz, 2 Kashtira Shiny Heroes. I used to play this at 3. I feel like 2 is more than enough now. If they snipe one, you stop the second one. This is solely responsible for locking down your field as well as protecting yourself from destruction by detaching another Kashtira monster. Before this Photon Hypernova, this card was pretty mediocre, but now in this deck it's just bananas. 2 Kashtira Arise Heart. Now this card is probably one of the, not probably, it's probably the strongest. It is the strongest card in this deck in my opinion. Anytime a card is activated, once per chain, you can attach a card that's in the graveyard or banished to it. This includes cards that you might have or your opponent might have, and then you can detach 3 and banish a card face down. What makes this card strong though is that if you summon this and activated the effect, you can use any Kashtira monster to special summon this. So if you have a Fenrir on the side, if you have a Unicorn on the side, if you have a Tier Limits Kashtira on the side, you could just overlay one. Granted, he'll only have the one material, but he stacks up materials so quickly, it's kind of insane. So he's really, really, really good tempo control, and you'll be able to out your opponent's resources pretty quickly. Number 89, Diablos is the Mind Hacker. This card used to be as a 2 of in my extra deck, now it's just a 1 of. It might go back to 2 because I was trying something else out that I didn't really like. This card just kind of blends in with the whole deck. You can detach 1, banish a card from your opponent's extra deck face down. When a card is banished face down, once per turn, you can banish cards from the top of your opponent's deck equal to the number of cards that are banished face down, face down. The thing is if your opponent has more cards face down banished than they do in their deck, you can't do it. So it has to be an equal amount, or the deck has to have more. So if they have 15 cards in the deck, or 14 cards banished face down, you can do it, but not vice versa. And then when you destroy a card by battle, you can banish a card, I believe, in their graveyard face down. Yeah, you can target one card in your opponent's graveyard and banish it face down. So overall, this card's really, really good in this deck. I'm probably gonna bump this back up to 2. Taking out this, of course. 1 Dark Arm, the Dragon of Annihilation. I was just trying this out to have a card that can pop multiple things while I have a Rise Heart in the field, because every time he would detach, a Rise Heart would activate and put it attach something onto himself. So it was just to kind of really stock up a Rise Heart. I might still keep trying it, but overall I don't feel like this card is necessary in this deck. 1 Number 11 Big Eye. I was playing this card at 2 as well, but I never felt like I needed it at more than 1. You can essentially take your opponent's monster. The monster can attack, but you can use it for link material, so you can go into Blacklist Soldier, Soldier Chaos, or you could be creative. 1 Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, I believe it's called. Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon, excuse me. So I like this card because this gives this deck an alternate way of winning, especially if you go into time. Every time your opponent activates a card effect, as long as it has materials, you can burn 500 from your opponent. Well, they just burn. They have to do it. So, especially if you go first against, let's say, Kashtira Mirror, you already know the start of their turn, a lot of stuff since it happens. So unless they open Fenrir to get rid of it, immediately, they're going to burn for a lot. So even if they have to go into Unicorn to search, that's minus 500. Activate Kashtira Theosis, minus 500. Special summon Fenrir. Activate Fenrir to search, minus 500, and then Fenrir would banish this face down, minus 500. So they lost 2,000 just trying to get this card off the field. So overall, this card I feel like is at least worth the slot for timebreaker purposes. 2 Divine Arsenal AA Zeus. I've never played this card at more than 1 in my extra deck until this deck. There's so many different times where this card becomes prevalent to winning games where you might be behind and you're just going to, let's say, your Rise Heart isn't working out, or maybe your Rise Heart has 6 materials on it, but your opponent isn't exactly giving that position. You swing, then you just overlay into this. It's in defense mode, so you avoid the Lightning Storm. Now you have 7 materials on this guy. You can blow up 3 times. There's nothing your opponent's going to really be able to do to stop that. The last 3 cards in my extra deck are all Link monsters. One is Akashic Magician. I might have butchered that name. The only reason why I played this card is because it's non-targeting removal. You could probably replace this with whatever you really want. Maybe a second big eye or whatever, but I like having the ability to like bounce certain things. Granted, it really depends on where they position it, but overall, a really good card in my opinion. One Blacklisted Soldier of Chaos, really easy to bring out in this deck, and you know having some kind of invulnerability, so to a certain extent because stuff can still affect him. But he's unaffected by cards that would destroy or target him, so that's pretty solid. And then one Underworld Goddess. This is probably a flex pick right here. You can pick something that's a little more comfortable. I just wanted something to remove stuff that might be problematic. It's really easy to go wide in this deck, but sometimes you might not be able to culminate a field to get rid of a problem. That's when you use this to kind of get rid of the problem. She has a nice attack stat of 3000, as well as a nice ability to negate in certain instances. So she's a pretty solid card. This is the deck. Again, I don't want to encourage people to overspend on anything that they really shouldn't be buying. Like I said, if it wasn't for the fact that I have most of this stuff and I got a pretty good deal on it, I probably would have never gone this far into this deck. With that being said, the deck is a lot of fun. It offers a really, really unique playstyle in banishing your opponent's resources face down, because you can go for mill, you can go for complete lockdown with Shangri-La. I mean, no, I'm butchering that name, I'm sorry, but overall, it's a fun deck. I want to thank you guys for watching the video. I will hopefully put up another one soon. Until next time.